On the last episode of Tactical Tuesday, we focused on pounding your opponents into submission with overbet bluffs on the river. But sometimes a hammer just isn't the right tool for the job. Sometimes the right tool for the job looks more like this, a very tiny hammer with a touch of finesse. Today's episode is going to be about those times. If you've ever asked yourself when to use this tool instead of this tool, stick around for today's hand breakdowns.
All right, welcome back to Tactical Tuesday. Last week we were walking softly with a very big stick, and this week we got a little bitty stick. We're going to be finding opportunities to use the small bet on the river instead of the big bet. Instead of trying to bowl our opponents over with shouting, we're going to whisper in their ears and make them fold. So, John, welcome as always. Ready to look at these small bet opportunities?
Yeah. Yep.
So, hand number one, looks like everybody folds to us in the small blind. We have a 5 and a 3 of the same suit. So tray 5 of hearts, we open to 3 big blinds. Mr. Big Blind or Mrs. Big Blind goes ahead and calls. Flop is ace 7-4 with 2 clubs. So this is sort of the first decision point. We have a gut shot, no backdoor flush draw, ace high board, to c-bet or not to c-bet. That's a
Two gut shots.
Oh, we have a double gut shot. Nice.
Yeah. These hands were played by me actually, so we don't have to speculate on the thought process too much here. My strategy is out of position as a preflop raiser is just to do a lot of checking. Maybe one of the board types or types of boards where you can do some more c-betting are going to be like the ace high boards or double Broadway, triple Broadway type boards. But I keep my preflop strategy, or sorry, my flop strategy pretty simple and just start out here with a range check. Just think it's the easiest way for me to manage my range. Kind of hoping, honestly, deep down that the big blind bets, but he doesn't, because I really want to check raise with 2 gut shots. But he does not give me the chance.
So instead, you pitifully get to realize your equity potentially for free. And the turn is a queen of clubs. So ace, queen of clubs, 7-4 of spades, $30 in the pot. You still got your double gut shot with one opportunity to hit him right in the gut. What you going to do?
Definitely going to start betting here. Again, this is part of my just out of position pre-flop raise strategy where I am going to have some delayed c-bets. And, my range also includes some really, really strong hands because I'm checking range on the flop. So I'm going to show up with, everything from top set to, just bottom end, just being like flush draws and gut shots like Jack 10 or King Jack here. So I start out with a 3/4 turn, delay c-bet, and get called.
Okay. Woohoo! You didn't get there. The river is the ace of spades. So final board is ace, ace, queen 7-4 with the ace 7-4 of spades. So river pairs top pair as well as completes the front door flush draw. There's 67, 62 in the pot. I don't have to ask you what you're going to do, but I will ask you why you do what you do.
Yeah, so sticking to the theme of the episode, I bet the river really, really small. I think this river card, this board pairing ace, is just it's not a great river for bluffing big because I think that the big size doesn't accomplish a whole lot here, where I don't know how many extra hands are going to fold because I size up my river bluff size here. Like, I don't, clearly trips is not folding and flush is never folding. And I think that like on this, once the board pairs on the river and the flop goes check, check, it's going to be pretty hard pressed to fold out even a pair of queens or 7s or 4s. I mean, a queen is obviously never folding either. And so I think that the most efficient way to bluff here is just to target the brick to draws in villain's range. So, villain could potentially have hands like 5-6, 3-5 himself, 8-6 that check back the flop, but also a whole bunch of club hands that now bricked to go along with all the Broadway gut shots that didn't 3-bet pre-flop. So hands like King Jack offsuit, King 10 offsuit, Jack 10 offsuit. So that's just the range that I'm targeting with this tiny size. And kind of this is going to be the theme of like when I decide to bet small on the river, bluff small on the river is going to be like, hey, there's this like big draw range that I can target with a small bet. And I don't need to size up to target that range. Like I don't, sizing up to half pot here, I don't think really accomplishes anything, gets them to fold any extra combos that the small size doesn't. And yeah, I think that's especially on the board pairing run out where like the pairs are not going to fold. I think that's just especially going to be my river strategy for bluffing is going to be like, hey, yeah, let's just go small and target the break draws, the king highs, the jack highs, the
you could make
eight
a
highs, six
case
highs.
for like not half pot or 75%, but like 3x pot on the river for potentially targeting like, I don't think you're going to fold out ace x, but you could potentially target queen x and
I think that's how these spots work, where it's like you have to pick one of the two extremes, right? Where it's like you decide the range that you want to target and think about like which range you can target most efficiently. And like if you want to go after the pair range, you just have to go really, really big. And if you want to just go after the draw range, then you can get away with betting really, really small, I think.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and sweat what villain has, and can't sweat it because don't know. Oh, there it is. They had the king jack. They did fold, which is actually surprising to me because king jack high is not a bad hand given this situation, and they're getting a good price. Like king jack high is essentially the same as a 4, as it relates to being able to bluff catch. So, yeah, I'm a little surprised they folded king jack, but
I'm surprised they folded king jack and king 10 too. But like if I could get in their heads a little bit, or maybe give them a try to understand why they're folding. One of the worst feelings in just online cash is like you face a small bet on the river and you're like, oh my god, like people rarely bluff the small size, and that's also true for me. Like most of my bluffs on the river are not going to be small, and it just feels like, man, this just feels like a thin value bet, and I'm just going to pay off a queen like so often here. And I think it's just like one of the psychological effects that maybe is like an added bonus to betting small is that like it feels like it's so rarely a bluff, and it doesn't have to be a bluff very frequently, which is why you should probably call with your king jacks and king tens. But yeah, it can, sometimes been players, even decent players, can forget about that and not realize that they're just getting incredible pot odds and find really big folds with no pair.
Yeah. Well, it went through, so let's move on. I did it again. I keep forgetting that when I show what everybody had. For the YouTube listeners, by the way, who have certainly liked and subscribed at this stage of the game, I forget to turn off the hole cards for the next hand. So if they were paying attention, they got to see all the spoilers, but let's be real, they probably weren't paying that close attention to hand number 2. So second hand, you're playing 5-10, you open the button with a 7-9 of hearts, and the small blind calls, who appears to be white belt. Flop is 10-10-5 with the 10 of hearts. White belt checks. Got a lot of options here with your 3 straight, 3 flush, 9 high. You could bet small. You could bet big, and then hope to realize. I probably lean towards just betting small and then blasting away on like turns where I pick up equity, and probably playing fairly passively when I don't. But
yeah, that's the plan. I mean, that's my c-bet strategy on paired boards and in position as the pre-flop raiser. So
hold a manager, making the button go over the size of the bet, prioritizing the right thing, that we know that heroes on the button versus how much they bet. Looks like you bet half pot, so there you go. Turn is a flush completer, so 10-10-5-6 with the 10-5-6 of diamonds. You now have a gut shot, though. Congratulations. There's 136 in the pot. Villain has 800 behind. They check. Oh, sneaky, sneaky. They don't check. They donk half pot, as white belts have been known to do. So what now, Mr. Jonathan?
We pick up equity, which is always nice. So we we pick up a gut shot, but also a flush completing turn. So little scary to pick up this type of equity on the flush completing turn. I find a raise here, and not going to go too deep into it, but if you're curious as to how I find this raise on the turn, I think the first thing you should do is actually join the CPG Slack community and get your hands on neutralized flop leads, neutralized turn leads, neutralized river leads, the donking courses that teach you how to deal with these flop, turn, and river donks from white belts.
That
and
is
yeah.
such an elegant plug, John. I'm so proud of you. Well done, well done. So using your knowledge of facing these donks, you raise. Hard to say what you raise to because of Hold'em Manager looks to be like $205. The white belt in question calls. River is the 4 of clubs, so 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. That's not a straight. You still have 9 high.
So close.
White belt checks. There's 546 in the pot. And so now, tell me why you went ahead and bet small. It looks like you bet 140 into 546.
Yeah, so another small river bet, and the logic's going to be very, very similar to the last hand, where I don't think we get to fold out much of the value donking range on the turn. Definitely not folding out a flush. Probably never folding out a 10. I don't know what else goes into the donking range. Maybe like a 6. I don't know if that's part of their donking range. But yeah, I think this undercard, this 4 on the river, this 10-10-5-6-4 run out is just very, very bad for targeting like the pair runouts. But there still is a pretty big range I think that we can target, which is like the 1 diamond hands that picked up a flush draw on the turn and decided to donk with, with their turn flush draw. Obviously 9 high is going to be losing to a lot of those flush draws, maybe now almost all of them, given this run out. They either have like a pair with a flush draw or a straight or something like that if they don't have a hand that's better than 9 high. So my plan here on the river is just to go after all those 1 diamond hands that might have found the donk on the turn and be okay with, getting called by a range that I don't think is very likely to fold to a larger bet, unless, like you said, I just put the small blind all in, targeting a 6 or pocket 7s, pocket 8s, pocket 9s maybe. But yeah, doubt we ever get a hand that's better than a 6 to fold all that frequently.
I agree. And, this Tactical Tuesday has been almost 12 minutes so far. So tiny bet, tiny episode. Let's see what happens. Villain does fold. And they have the queen and the 3 of different suits. So queen of diamonds, tray of hearts. They call the flop, turn to flush draw, and rivered queen high. So well done. You folded out the type of hand that you were targeting. And who knows, like maybe you fold out some ace high, maybe you fold out some 5x, 5-7 with the 7 of diamonds or something like that. If villain's just like really wanting to make their flush and then just kind of folding their pair on the river versus small bet. So yeah, I think your logic is sound and consistent. It makes a lot of sense and well done. So small bets as bluffs on the river. And by the way, I know that this episode, it's a little bit easy for, the listener to hear us describe this and be like, oh, wow, they just fold facing the small bet. They actually don't fold that often, right? Like they call a lot more often than they fold. And that's how it's supposed to work, right? When you bet a third on the river, villain can call very, very frequently, right? Like villain can call 65, 70% of the time. And we're still going to be able to make money just due to them not being able to call frequently enough, right? So, yeah, like the facing a third, we need to win 25% of the time. So they need to defend 75% of the time. And that's just really hard to do. And so we can lose 74% of the time and still make money. And that's just the thing for, the YouTube viewer, the podcast listener, really, really take to heart is that like the price you're getting to bluff when you bet small is really good. And you also expect to lose very, very frequently. It's not going to work every single time. It just needs to work enough for the bluff to be profitable. And that's the last thing that I'm going to add for today's episode of Tactical Tuesday. Like, subscribe, comment, show us some times that you've bluffed tinily. And villains have called. Maybe ask for feedback as to whether or not your thought process is correct. And we'll get back to you in the comments down below. And that's all I got for today's episode of Tactical Tuesday.
Great. See you next week.
Don't miss out on our next great poker adventure. Hit that subscribe button and join the CPG family.
This is Tactical Tuesday on Chasing Poker Greatness with your hosts, Brad Wilson and John Chai. Coach Brad approved. Are you a lone wolf searching for the ultimate pack? The CPG Wolf program is a close-knit brotherhood hell-bent on one thing only: chasing poker greatness. Powered by bleeding-edge wolf strats and led by Coach Brad and his lieutenants, CPG Wolves are systematically prepared for almost any spot they'll encounter on the green felt. If you want to plug into an elite team and have a step-by-step game plan to realize your full poker potential, you can apply at cpgwolves.com. Space is limited, and the pack is only as strong as its weakest member. So only the hungriest, grittiest, and most driven will be accepted into the program. Applications are open at cpgwolves.com.